Okay, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Building the Pride. I apologize for not coming to you guys on Friday at noon like I normally do. My computer was in the shop and I literally could not do it. Might have been able to do it on my phone, but not a huge fan of that idea. So, today, and this might be a shorter stream, I'm going to run a scenario that was recently proposed, I believe, over at NFL.com. So let me get this updated here. So, Lions trade up proposal at NFL.com. Okay, let's save that and show. There we go. And Donkey Kong is already in chat. Boy, he hears that notification and bam, he's in. What's up, buddy? All right, so let's see. Let's share my screen. You guys have probably seen this trade, but let's look at it a little bit better here. So here's the proposed trade. The Lions would trade up from 17 to 7. So inside the top 10 picks in the first half of the NFL draft. That's not nothing. So what would happen? We would give up the 17th overall pick, one of our 6th round picks, which I believe is our last pick in the draft this year, and tight end Sam Laporta, which I believe is the quote unquote cornerstone of this trade proposal. And what would we get? We would get the number 7 overall pick this year. I believe a player who's going into their 3rd year in Ben Sinnott. I'm not really sure how to say it. And a 2027 3rd round pick. That all sounds pretty good to me from a Lions perspective. So let's kind of break down how this trade came about. So this is written by, I don't know. Oh, it doesn't reference the guy from NFL.com. So I am referencing this post from the Pride of Detroit forums. So let's see what they say here. First off, I don't think Laporta will be traded. Neither do I. Laporta's been great, but losing him hurts the offense. But the big picture must be considered. Laporta is entering the final year of a rookie deal and is coming off back surgery. If you're going to give him top of his position money, which Brad Holmes has done a number of times over his tenure as GM, that would look something like $19 million a year. And if they get that done before Kyle Pitts' extension in Atlanta, it might stay around that number, but Kyle Pitts might have the opportunity to push that ceiling even higher. So then can the Lions afford to pay Laporta close to that level? Jahmyr Gibbs is coming up, as is Jack Campbell, as is Brian Branch. It's not hard to imagine why the Commanders would want Laporta, especially with David Blau calling the plays. Washington would find a receiver and or defensive help readily at number 17. Why would Detroit move up to 7? I suspect to acquire a foundational left tackle. The position is their biggest remaining worry, and their guy might not last until 17. It would be a big risk, but potentially a smart one financially and football-wise, and Brad Holmes has never shied away from making waves in round 1. Okay. So that is kind of the structure of the trade. So I'm going to run a scenario at PFF only because PFF allows the inclusion of players in their MDS. So I'm going to set this up right now. Okay, so the Lions are going to trade. We're going to pick the Commanders, and we get 7. They get 17. We get a 27 third rounder, and tight end Ben Sinnott. And then we give up 205 and Sam Laporta. So, I should probably swap this in and out here. Stop sharing, reshare, go to the MDS, go back to the screen, add it to the stage, make it bigger, as I would constantly yell at Mike to do. So PFF gives this trade a 73% chance to be accepted. I think that's insane. And the only reason I think that is because I cannot recall any other type of trade like this. So this would be, from my perspective, this would be a fresh precedent-setting type of trade. So I am going to force it, even though I think that it's a ridiculous trade. Okay, so now we have moved up, so we're going to start the draft. Okay, so this worked out maybe as well as it could for Detroit. Okay, so let's take a look. Fernando Mendoza is as locked in as a number one pick as I can remember us having. Ruben Bain went number 2 to the Jets. This is a little bit different than what I have been seeing. I have been seeing Arvell Reese or David Bailey here. And certainly Ruben Bain's been here too, but those two guys have been, either of those two guys have been more prevalent than having Bain. Jeremiah Love to the Cardinals, I think, is just insanity. Sonny Styles, okay, you could sell me. Arvell Reese seems a little redundant with Abdul Carter. He's more linebacker. Carter's more a edge rusher. But if this is the case, then Arvell Reese is really you're drafting an off-ball linebacker primarily in the top 5, and that seems interesting. And then we have Mansour Delane here when Cleveland clearly needs a tackle or a wide receiver at this spot. So I have some, clearly PFF has changed their board here in the short term. Maybe that's due to the fact that that company just got sold and we don't know what it's going to look like for them here in the next month, 6 months, a year. But anyways, Detroit has some options here. So what are the options? Well, if you make the trade, you could very well be looking for your quote unquote left tackle of the future, right? But now you're in a position to take anybody that you want, and you've got if you're going to move Penei Sewell to left, which I would imagine is going to happen, I think that you can kind of give this some. You've got some play around money here a little bit. You could take Francis Mauigoa, and you would have a great big 6'6", 315. He's only 20, will be 21. Well-built, well-rounded tackle prospect with a high floor as a projected starter. He brings power in the run game and quick feet in the pass protection, though his ceiling may be limited by average length and kick slide ability. Who else? Spencer Fano. Monroe Freeling is here. I'm less of a Freeling guy because I don't feel like he didn't perform very well in the position drills at the combine. He's got all the traits, but can he effectively play the position? I don't know. He seems a bit young and a little inexperienced, and I don't know if that's the kind of player you want to add to the Lions roster right now. The player that I was hoping would be here is Bain, to pair him with Aiden Hutchinson for the next 5 years. So what to do? I mean, you can take the tackle. Caleb Downs is here. You could trade down. Yeah, let's see. We've been offered some trades. Let's see what. Oh, we have to select a team to trade with. I don't want to do that. So David Bailey's also here. 6'3", 250. Lacks ideal size and length, but compensates with elite explosiveness and twitch. May not be a 3-down player, but his pass rush upside is significant. So his stats were, he had a 93, pretty decent run defender, 81, that was good, 21.6 pass rush win rate. 15 sacks this last year, had 7 the year before, 5 is probably a freshman. He's 22, and I think he does not fit the archetype of players the Lions want across from Aiden Hutchinson. They want the Marcus Davenport 6'5", 6'6", 270 build. And this guy is a deviation from that, right? If Ruben Bain was on the board here, I think that they would draft Ruben Bain. I want to draft David Bailey because I think that David Bailey offers us a more immediate route to getting back to the playoffs, to being in like his type of pass rusher, I think was on, well, the Seahawks certainly had pass rushers that kind of fit his style in the Super Bowl this year. And they, the teams that made the playoffs this year, or the Super Bowl this year, they come at you in waves with their pass rush, right? Like Jared versus a bull rusher, Byron Young was excellent across from him, and then the Boya Mafe was, the number one pass rusher, I believe, this year from the Seahawks. And but they would come at you in waves, and just get after the quarterback. And if he's not a 3-down player, is that bad? I mean, you just signed DJ Wonnum. Can DJ Wonnum be your first down player, and then you bring in Bailey on 2nd and 3rd down? I don't know that that's bad, right? I do think that Lions fans would crucify the team if they did something like trade Laporta to move up 10 spots to take a pass rusher. And kind of hard to argue with them. I mean, if you took Mauignoa, your line is probably set for the next, I would say, at least 2 years, right? Because you would have, let's assume the opening day line, the offensive line was Sewell, Mahogany, Cade Mays, Tate Ratledge, Mauignoa. You have Sewell and Mays on non-rookie deals, right? And then 3/4, where 60% of your offensive line is on a rookie deal or like a deal that just isn't that expensive as far as Mahogany is concerned. But yeah, he's still on a rookie deal. I don't think they've cut him and brought him back. So I'm really at odds at what to do here. Like, I don't think that if you add Mauignoa to this line, I don't think that the line gets back to what it was 2 years ago when it was Decker, Glasgow, Ragnow, Zeitler, Sewell. And so, I mean, can the Detroit Lions get an offensive line that gets back to that level? I mean, maybe. I mean, Mauignoa would have to be truly amazing in order for that to do that, and Ratledge would have to take a step forward. Cade Mays needs to be as advertised. Mahogany would have to take a step forward. So I'm torn here. I really don't want to take Mauignoa. I really want to take David Bailey, but I'm going to take Mauignoa here just because that seemed to be the theme of the article. So the Lions end up getting, let's say, the number 1 tackle in the draft, right? Okay. So offensive line issues are fixed, so like we just had Max Ahanacher, a right tackle, just went at 32, and like I wonder if the difference between the 32nd pick and the 7th pick in the draft. Oh, Malachi Lawrence goes one pick ahead of. That's a bummer. Okay, so I would take Gabe Yakas here from Illinois as a Marcus Davenport body type to put across from Hutch, but like I don't think that the line is that much better, right now. So now we're going into the 4th round. We get a 3rd round pick next year, which is great because the Lions don't. Oh, I want to go this way. The Lions don't use a lot of their 3rd round picks. They send them, in trades to move up most of the time. So getting one back here is pretty interesting. So now that we are in the 4th round, we've got Bud Clark, which is a safety that Eric Schlitt at Pride of Detroit has indicated he would really like. Jason Kilgore, Justin Joly. Who's on the board? Bryce Bocher. I can make cases for all of these guys. But let's just stick with what I consider to be the Brad Holmes methodology, which is best player on the board. We're going to take Bud Clark just in case Kirby isn't ready. I haven't heard it much to the effect that he's ready to go or not. Now I'm going to take Justin Joly because of the Drew Petzing offensive plan. Or do we want to take Marlon Klein? I think is closer to a Sam Laporta type than say Justin Joly. I doubt Sam Roush is still at the board. Nope. So we're not going to take a quarterback. Probably not taking a running back. Jelon Kilgore could be interesting. I'll take Joly here. So now it's off to round 5. We could take another tight end, really try and bring that room together. I just love this guy's name, Ephesians Prysock. That's just a great name. We've already taken a safety. I do like Michael Taft from Texas. Okay. Let's see. 5'11", 200. He's a senior. Not exactly a man coverage corner. Okay, so that's probably out. We could take Katron Allen. So right now, if Jahmyr Gibbs is hurt, Pacheco is the featured back, right? And I don't know about Vaki. I don't think Vaki's ever going to see regular in-game snaps on this team as a running back. So if Pacheco, I just don't believe that Isaiah Pacheco is the kind of guy that you can give the ball to 15 times a game and produce. I'll take Katron Allen here. Why not? 5th round pick. We're not investing that much. It's right where you want to take a running back. Jamari Taylor's another guy I've heard about. Kalen Black would be nice. I'm going to take Caden Curry here as a situational pass rusher. I like the way he plays football. I've heard that this Eli Heidenreich, a fullback at Navy, is also being listed as a wide receiver, and his statistical comparison is Christian McCaffrey, of all people. Oscar Delpa still on the board. TJ Hall, Jason Kennedy. Some good players here still. Is this the guy that was such a good kick returner for? Yeah. So this is the kid at Iowa who was just returning kicks like crazy this year. And I wonder, you know what? I'm going to take him. If he's just a kick returner, and I'll take this kid from Navy just for some spice. But like, if he is in the NFL what he is as a kick returner in college, then you might have another All-Pro on your hand. And like, the Lions certainly do value special teams. Okay, so this is what we ended up doing. We have Ben Sinnott. We get a 3rd-round pick in 2027. We gave up, in my opinion, a 6th-round pick that just doesn't matter. We took Francis Mauigoa and Gabe Yakas. Now, I think that what this draft shows over some like other drafts that we've done in the past, is that we are, quote unquote, we're improving the tier of tackle the Lions are able to take in this draft, right? So this was the Lions were able to get the number 1 tackle in the class with this proposed trade up from NFL.com. And it cost you Sam Laporta. So let's talk about Sam Laporta. In my opinion, of the 4 members of the 2023 draft class, the guy that I would want to pay money to, top of position money to, 4th is Sam Laporta. I think my first, the guy that I would want to pay first, and please don't hate me for this, is Jack Campbell, who's a proven All-Pro and one of the best linebackers in the NFL. I would want to give him that money first. Then would be Jahmyr Gibbs. Then would be Brian Branch. And we're going to need to see how Brian heals coming off of his Achilles injury. And then I would want to do Sam Laporta. So, like, there is some precedent for this move in the sense that Brad traded away TJ Hawkinson, a very similar player to Sam Laporta, to Minnesota for draft compensation on the eve of having to give him a second contract or another contract. And maybe he does that again. Maybe this offseason has shown us that Brad has a price point, I believe, for various positions across the roster. And maybe he feels that rookie tight ends or first contract tight ends are worthwhile investment. Like, you could spend a 2nd-round pick, a high 2nd-round pick, on a first contract tight end, but maybe you don't invest in those guys long term. And maybe if this were to happen, in real life, then that would kind of, I think, be more evidence to that point. So they get a tight end back that, I mean, I don't know much about Sinnott, but like, if he helps the Drew Petzing 13 personnel group, then that's an upside. And getting a mid-round pick, a day 2 pick back next year in that 2027 draft class, I think is completely worth it. So like, I think Detroit comes out like gangbusters on this proposed trade. And like, let's see if we can tell who Washington ended up taking Akeem Mesidor, which would be a player that I also think would be a great fit for the Detroit Lions. Like, if the Lions were at 17 and all of the tackles went, then Akeem Mesidor would be on the Aiden Hutchinson contract extension timeline, where Akeem's whole rookie deal would eat up the time span of Aiden's extension. And then, you can determine, they're both basically, this right around the same age. Do we want to extend Hutch? What do you want to do with Akeem? You could let him walk at 30 or 29 or whatever into free agency. And if he gets a big deal, then maybe you get a comp pick back for him, something like that. So my thoughts on this were effectively like, if Ruben Bain was there at 7, I was the GM, I would have drafted Ruben Bain. And I would have said this draft is going to fundamentally change the way that the Detroit Lions approach the offseason, which is effectively to say we're going to put resources into our defense in order to see if we can't get the ball back to our offense. And maybe they don't need to be as efficient. But let's try one more. Let's try one more draft. We're going to enter the draft, and we're going to offer a trade. We're going to trade with Washington, 7-17. We get a third rounder next year. You get 205. We get Sinnott, and you get Laporta. Forced trade. Here we are. We're at number 7. Let's start the draft. Okay, excellent. So this time, Ruben Bain is on the board. So what if anything does this change? Well, let's take first of all, I'm going to slow the draft down, and I'm going to take Bain here. Okay, so pause. All right, so if this were to happen, right? So number one, there's a lot of dominoes in this scenario. Number one, the Commanders want to make this trade. Right? We want to trade up. They want to trade back. They want Sam Laporta. They're willing to do it for these terms. That's a big domino to fall. Then Bain has to be on the board. Okay, so he's on the board, and Detroit wants to take him. They do. Now, what do you do? If you're Detroit, like you have an additional third round pick next year that you can put in, do you want to move up into, let's say, the back half of the first round and get your tackle that you wanted, right? So Detroit, when they had the 17th pick, was firmly in line for one of those tier 2 tackles. Most of them are right tackles. So let's see what that might look like as well. So like let's say we'll take a look right after the Steelers pick, so that we'll see if we can trade up in front of the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, we're going to resume. Tiananmen. Okay, there goes Fano. So now tier 1's off the board. There goes Freeling. Ione's gone. Oh, I got to stop it. Whoops. I didn't stop it fast enough. Okay, interesting. The Chargers took Jordan Tyson. I really don't like PFF's big board. I want 23. I'll give you 50, and I'll give you this third. Oh, they don't like that. Interesting. So what would it take? Would it take a 2 next year? To trade up? This has a 58% chance. Let's offer this, our 50th pick and a round 2 next year. Oh, they accepted it. Okay. Okay, excellent. This worked out really, really well. Now, first of all, I quite like Max Ahanacher from Arizona State. I think that his upside is greater than the remaining tackles on the board. But like all I've heard all offseason is Blake Miller for the Lions. So 6'6", 315, 22 years old, has the frame and overall skill set of a potential NFL starting offensive tackle. Boy, I'd hope so. His experience shows up in his patient, consistent pass protection. And if he continues to add strength, he can develop into an impact player. So that does seem to be the kind of player that Detroit likes. So I'm going to draft Blake Miller to be the future right tackle of the Detroit Lions. So this is a crazy scenario, and it's like what I would call, and like if other people had posted this, I would have said like nice Madden trade, or whatever, like a completely unrealistic thing. But it is unrealistic because we are basing it off of a trade that hasn't happened yet, right? Or could never maybe could never happen. All right, so here we have fourth round pick. We've taken Ruben Bain. We traded up for Blake Miller. So the lines should be in pretty good shape. So now I want to continue in this type of thing. In this particular draft, I want to continue to add to the defense. So one kid I hear a lot about is this Jalen Kilgore guy. Good run defender, 6'1", 211, has length, strength, and explosiveness to develop into a starting nickel defender in today's NFL. Okay. I want Brian Branch to play the nickel. I want him to come down from safety and play nickel, where he's closer to the line and can affect more types of plays. So here, I think that I'm going to, well, let's take a look at this kid, this Charles Deming kid. 6'1", 190. Better man cover corner than he is a zone cover corner. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to take this kid, Bryce Bocher, maybe to develop into the next Will linebacker, and maybe he and Rodrigo can battle it out. And then I'm going to hope to get this Charles Deming kid at 128. Okay, so that worked out. Lions have not been able to figure out their secondary. Like we thought, heading into last year, everyone would have probably agreed, like, oh yeah, you've got two of the best safeties in the NFL, and now both of them are hurt. One of them might never be able to recover from his injury. And Kirby Joseph, I'm certainly rooting for him to get back to where he was. I don't want him to have to be forced to medically retire. Let's see. 6'2", 320. Kean is a traditional power-based nose tackle who excels in run defense with leverage and strength, or strength and leverage. His pass rush ability is limited, and he must develop more active hands and lean into his bull rush to maximize his skill set. He projects as a rotational run defender. Well, welcome to Detroit, because we haven't signed DJ Reader. They let Roy Lopez go, and effectively you're making Tyleik Williams change positions. So, like, I feel like this is just good run stuffing depth for the Lions, and that's something that they've emphasized under this regime consistently. Let's see. Trey Moore, 6'3", 250. Good run defender, bad coverage grade. No write-up, per se, to help me understand who he is as a player. Owen Heineke, 6'1", 227. He's basically Heineke is a smaller, feisty linebacker with good athleticism who projects as a coverage-oriented player and core special teamer early in his career. Okay. I'll take that. This kid was one of the fastest players at the combine. Maybe he's a gunner for you on special teams. Not really sure what to do with these late picks all the time. I like TJ Hall. We could take Kennedy. No, I think we already took a guy that was going to... He's Damani Jackson's an outside corner. I'll take another. I'll keep taking corners. We're not sure what's going to happen with what's his name? Ennis Rakestraw. And there is still the kind of the like legal situation hanging over the head of Terrion Arnold. So I'm not exactly sure what are, and then of course both safeties are hurt. So like, all right, let's take a look at this. We make the trade. We take Ruben Bain. Then we traded up for Blake Miller at the back end of the first round. Will linebacker. I've heard a lot from like Lions media about needing to get like the competition like fired up again, on the team. So maybe Charles Demings can come in and provide some of that in the cornerback room. Tim Keenan is just a rotational nose tackle. Owen Heineke and Bryce Bocher and Rodrigo can fight it out for starting Will next to Jack Campbell. Hey, bud. Okay, so fine. No more draft hero, but Motor City Don created his own simulator. Check out the mock draft, the mock machine at your convenience, of course. Hope that things are good. Why no mock draft hero? We're only doing PFF today because we needed to include a trade for certain players. So we're not coming back to PFF. Now you have me wondering if mock draft hero is something's wrong with that. Okay, no, it's still there. Thank God. Yeah, so don't worry, fan man. I will check out that other simulator though. And then some more back 7 depth and then another tight end. So like this, I think this is just kind of a solid draft. 2 A's in the first round. And like, so here's the thing. The first 3 drafts that Brad Holmes did are just littered with contributors, right? So like Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Oh, what's the linebacker's name? I'm totally blank. Derek Barnes and Ali McNeil were all in year 1. And then in year 2, you had Hutch, Jamo, Kirby. And then in year 3, you've got the four guys, right? You've got Gibbs, Campbell, Laporta, Branch, right? And then the last 2 years, nowhere close to that level of contribution, right? And I hear people out there saying like, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Like, there's not as many spots, and you're absolutely right. There's not as many spots for like 3 and 4 contributors to continually be added to the roster, right? But like, I also think that we have seen that this year the roster has issues, and I would call the response to filling those spots, the open roster spots that we have this year, lackluster. It's a lot of cheap young guys, and I don't know that I believe that Brad has been able to identify good, cheap, prove-it deal candidates in his time as GM. And it seems like we have a lot of those players on the roster this year. And I would like to see more effort paid to developing compensatory picks. If this is the way that they're going to approach the offseason, then like let's identify players who are cut and sign those guys. Or the Lions have added 12 free agents this offseason, I believe, maybe more now with like Ben Bartch, being put on there. And they just signed another safety, a guy who used to play for Chuck somebody. So they might have a ton of depth at these positions, but like if you go from the starter to the first depth guy, I think that you're really, really Chuck Clark. Thank you very much. You're really taking a step down, right? And so like I like depth as a concept as well, but I would rather have the depth, at backup safety be a 2nd or 3rd round pick as opposed to, a prove-it contract guy coming off of an injury, or like a 7th round guy who's going to be a special teamer but is listed at a position that he could play. So that's just my opinion. So like I think that it's an interesting article from NFL.com about what the Lions could do. I certainly think that there's some precedence for Brad saying that he'd be willing to move on from a tight end on a first contract basis for some value, draft pick compensation. And then what would the Lions do if they were to get into the top 10 and have a shot at a tier 1 tackle in this year's class, or a Reuben Bain if he were to fall to 7, something like that. And so we had a couple of those. We looked at each of those instances, and like, I do think that if the Lions were to make a move into the top 10 and then decided to go with defensive player, name it, whatever, like you could trade into the back end of the back end of the first round. The back end of the first round and pick up like perhaps a Blake Miller, perhaps what if Caden Proctor slips? I really like Max Ahanacher. I think that like if you played him at right tackle or even started Larry Borum like this year and gave him some time to get into the weight room and like develop, like he could actually become what they hoped Giovanni Manu could be. But like I don't even think Giovanni Manu is going to be on the roster by the time we do the cut down in September. So, but I'm happy with like making that investment in somebody like Ahanacher as opposed to a 4th round kid from Canada who's never played anywhere near Division I football. So, yeah, I feel more comfortable with that reality coming to pass than say the one that we took, in 2024. So, anyways, I think that Brad needs to have a draft class where they bring in multiple contributors. And so when I say contributor, like what I mean is a guy that can start or that could potentially earn a second contract in Detroit, right? And so he's been okay drafting outside of day 2 in the past, but like most of his contributors come from the first round, as they do for most teams. And so I don't have a problem with him moving up off of, a second round pick at 50 if it means going to get like the 5th or 6th tackle on the board. So, but that's an interesting trade idea from NFL.com. I'm sorry that I couldn't do the show for its normal time this last Friday. I am going to get back to that schedule now that I've got my computer back. So anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you guys have a great Easter Sunday tomorrow. And I will see you back here at our normal time, Fridays at noon. Okay? Talk to you later, guys.